Hello and welcome to Outsiders Weather and the Skeptics Ice Age Watch, where even the kangaroos in Australia will tell you global warming is a hoax, where we're on to our third snow event in the Blue Mountains, which hasn't happened for decades, and where we've even had record snow in parts of Western Australia. Makes my job easy. Meanwhile, with impeccable timing, a new Chinese scientific study is warning of, well, knock me down with a windmill, we may be heading for global cooling. Dr. Wu Qing and her team from the Institute of Geology and Geophysics spent 12 years studying sediments under Moon Lake, a small volcanic lake hidden in the deep forests of Inner Mongolia. Their conclusion? Winters in northern China have been warming since 4000 BC, up and down in 500-year cycles, and this has nothing to do with anthropogenic or human activity. Driving forces include the sun, the atmosphere, and its interaction with the ocean, Wu said. Who'd have thought? We have detected no evidence of human influence. What's more, Wu and her team warn that nature may be about to trick us with the risk of sudden global cooling. And speaking of tricksters, remember this great film? Yes, the greatest movie ever about confidence tricksters. Greatest ever made. I think it's time for a remake, though. But what would be the modern equivalent of the big con, the sting? Well, all we know from the original film, first you need a mark, a gullible fool with far too much money at his disposal. Here's one. This mark's got a lazy $500 million tucked in his back pocket. Perfect! Then you need the setup. The more complicated and confusing the setup is, the better for the sting. Like this, we stage an important forum and invite all the South Pacific leaders. But beforehand, we get the mark to sign up to some dodgy agreement, like the Paris one, so he's well and truly suckered in. Then we need the hook, a sudden emotional jolt that panics the mark so that he falls for the sting. Such as this. Pacific Islands will no longer stand for Australia's inaction on climate change. Aha. But will the mark be conned? This is where you need the players. They're the bit part actors who make the sting seem plausible. The more convincing they are, the better. Like this one, who played her part to perfection in the Great South Pacific Sting, shrieking at the mark and publicly humiliating him. So too did this player. You see, it's up to the players to bamboozle the mark into believing the setup in order to trick him out of his money and make a successful sting. So you need a few stunts along the way like this. Kiddies sitting in water because the island's sinking. You convince the mark that your island is sinking and you go to great lengths to reinforce that impression. Even though the science is clear. Tuvalu is not sinking under the seas. In fact, it is the opposite. Tuvalu is growing in size. There you go. So you see, but none of that matters because in the great sting, you need to just keep repeating the big lie. The more emotionally and more elaborately you repeat that lie, the better. Kids are always a great cover story for doing so, literally. Like young Greta here, who is playing her part to perfection, convincing the world, but political leaders, that they need to do much more because their very future is at stake. Put it all together and you've got the perfect sting. Scott Morrison hands over $500 million to help stop the island sinking, even though they're not. Indeed, Outsiders has exclusive footage of Scott Morrison only moments after he left Tuvalu, realising he'd been scammed $500 million.
Come on! But my money's in there!
There's a couple of dead guys in there, too. You can't get mixed up in that.
You don't understand. There's $500 million in there.
And we also have exclusive footage of the rest of the leaders of the South Pacific Sting celebrating after Mr. Morrison's departure.
A nice con, Hickey. I thought you were the feds myself when you came in.
No trouble, Henry. Snyder went for it all the way. You should have seen the rag he lit under Lonergan. That's great.
Well, kid, you beat him.
You're right. It's not enough. It's close.
It's never enough. When you're scamming and stinging, it's never enough for the big con. But there we go. That's it for Outsiders Weather and the Skeptics.